I'm going to talk about setting up your scene. Let me bring up the, let me share my screen here first as well. And let's open up, I think Chrome. Yeah, okay. So you're probably familiar with this outline if you've registered for this webinar here. Basic scene construction with props is what we're going to start off with. We'll move on to, we'll get to lighting setup a little bit later on and some camera work. We're not going to focus too much on these two because those can get quite complex. But I do want to focus on the scene creation and the character animation and dialogue. These ones on the left here I want to focus on. And as always, if you have any questions, we have a Q&A panel, Q&A session at the end of every webinar. So feel free to put your questions into the Q&A section of Zoom there. And I'll answer those in the last 10 minutes, half an hour of today's webinar. And I'll get to all your questions there. So put those in that Q&A section there. Anytime throughout the webinar, I'll answer them at the very end there. I'm not really going to be checking the chat window, just be aware of that. So yeah, put all your stuff in there. When we are recording this as well, as always, we're broadcasting it on YouTube and recording it. So feel free to check it on YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube, just be aware that we're not going to be answering questions from YouTube. You have to be joined in on Zoom. All right, so just be aware of that. And as always, we do send out a survey for you guys to fill out. And if you fill that survey for us, we give you 10% discount for the content store. A big whopping 10%. You can spend it on whatever you want in the content store. So make sure you get that survey to us. We're always looking for new topics to cover, anything that you guys want to learn more about. Please feel free to put those topics or questions in the feedback form. Okay. Yeah, so that about covers it. I want to give a quick shout out to our promotion today. So we have a really cool new pack here. If you go to the main content store page, it's somewhere on here. So many things. This medieval to modern times kind of combo pack. I'm going to throw this into the chat window for you guys, the link for it if you want to check it out. Just go ahead and do that real quick. To all panelists and attendees. Holy smokes, some of you crazy people are here from like Germany and UK. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm on the West Coast here in Vancouver, Canada, so it's not really too late there. I'll probably have dinner after this webinar. Yeah, so that's the link there for the content store. Not today's special. This is a special that ends on April 30th, and it contains our really cool new beard and brows builder. This is a really essential one for realistic hair. We have the new realistic hair system that we have tutorials on and stuff like that for Character Creator 3. But today, of course, we're focusing on iClone and the scene creation and stuff. Okay, there's a lot of cool stuff here you can get on discount. And as always, there's the weekly special. So every Thursday, it's updated. Check out the weekly special here in the content store. And this week, it's a cartoon animator 4-pack. Excuse me. And wow, come on, internet. Anyways, maybe it's having an issue loading. But everything else seems to be okay. I'll throw that in for you there. Anyways, it's like a pack for Cartoon Animator 4. I forget which one it is, but the weekly specials are normally like 80% off or something like that. So it's always a good idea to check it out. So you can just pick up stuff for like super cheap. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and I think that about covers all the introduction stuff. So I'm going to show you. We're going to close down Chrome. If I missed anything, of course, feel free to put that in the questions section there or Q&A section. I'm going to just bid you guys adieu on Zoom right now. If I can get up here. So I might show my face later. If we end up doing some facial motion capture later on, I can show you guys a little bit about that if you're interested. But for now, I'll just stop the video just to save bandwidth. And we will move on to the live demo. Okay, so this is the scene that we're going to recreate. I'm going to play this scene back here, and we will get started. So let's go ahead and do that. Oops, what did I do here? I zoomed the camera out. Okay, so play back.
Get me out of here. We know you have the money, Lebowski, and you're going to tell us one way or the other.
I already told you I don't know where the money is. Just let me go.
All right, so really super cheesy dialogue. And that's just me doing both voices and kind of modifying my voice. I don't have an army of voice actors at my beck and call, although there are some cool little artificial intelligence voice kind of things they have out there these days. But yeah, if all goes well, we're going to recreate that entire scene from scratch within the next hour. So let's get started. We have a couple things to take care of. I'm going to go back to start a new project here. And like I mentioned, we're going to start from scratch. So you have nothing on your screen, and you don't really need to purchase anything to follow this this webinar either. This whole live demo, all the stuff that I'm going to be using here comes with iClone, aside from a couple of quick content motions which you can purchase for like super cheap. All right, so the first thing we're going to start off is constructing our scene. If we go to our content manager here and we go over to our props, we have under 3D blocks. There's a folder called 3D blocks here under props. And if you go into that section there, you'll find wall and floor. And here's where you can just kind of build your own house from the basics, floors, walls, and stuff like that. There's a couple with windows and door frames. We're not going to worry too much about that. I'm just going to throw in this floor. So you can just double click it, or you can click and drag it in. And we can zoom out. There's our floor. All right, nothing special about it. We're going to be adding some stuff a little bit later on. And the next thing I'm going to do is throw in a wall. So let's go ahead and click and drag in the wall. So we can click and drag it to wherever we want on our scene. I'll click and drag it over here. And if I press the W hotkey, very important hotkey to learn, the W hotkey brings up your transform gizmo, and you can move your wall back and forth any sort of way you want. Now notice between here and here, it kind of snaps. The wall kind of just snaps to the edge of this floor here. And that's because I have a feature called Snap to Model on. If I go to Edit and Preferences here, there is a Snap to Model. You can press Control-M to toggle that on and off. Okay, and you can also snap to the grid. Transform Gizmo will, to show it or hide it, is Control-Q. Okay, so if for any reason you don't want to have the Transform Gizmo, you can press Control-Q. And I don't know why you hide it. I always have it on anyways. Anyway, so we have our first section of wall. And this is really all we need. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to add materials to our wall and our floor in just a moment here. But before I get into that, I want to have a character in my scene just for scale. So I'm going to bring in one of the default actors here under avatar. Well, let's just bring in this. Oh, I don't know. Should we bring in Caleb or Kevin this time? Let's bring in Kevin. He's kind of a rougher looking character. Okay, so the reason I'm bringing this character in right now is whenever you're constructing a scene, it's always a good idea to bring in a character for scale, just to see, like, you know, obviously you don't want to build a holding cell for ants. So you need to have a character in the screen to kind of give you proportions, relative proportions for size. Okay, so anyways, I think we're good. Okay, this could be like a vaulted ceiling. I'd say this character is about maybe 6 feet. And the ceiling's about 10 feet. That's for those of you who don't do the imperial system, that's about 1.87 meters. And I think 10 feet is like, I don't know, 5 meters, 4 meters. Gosh, I'll be way off on that. I was raised old school. Anyways, okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to throw in some material onto this wall here. And in iClone here, the materials for the substance materials can be found in the media tab up here. So I'm going to go to the media tab, and you have a section called material, a folder called material there. And here you have materials for, you know, beard and subsurface scattering specific materials. This is mostly for, you know, to do subsurface scattering with more detailed renders. I can talk about that more later if you want. And there's your default substance tools. There's also a substance PBR 200 pack, which you can purchase separate from the content store. And you can just search PBR 200, it'll probably pop up. I'm just going to use the embedded stuff just to avoid any sort of, you know, just so you guys can follow along if you need with the exact same process. Okay, so this wall, if you recall from our original project, the wall was basically made of brick. I'm not sure if you guys caught that with all the cool voice work that was going on. It might have distracted you. But I'm going to throw in this bricks PBR material onto our wall. So just click and drag it, or you can just double click it. And you're like, holy smokes, those are like massive bricks. Obviously, each brick is like about the length of one of our characters. So we need to fix this. And let's go into the Modify tab to modify this texture here, or this material on our wall. Okay, so to do that, just select the wall and go over here to your Materials tab. And down close to the bottom here, if we're at the top, we can scroll down to the bottom. Notice that all the texture maps here have this kind of red flame, which is the algorithmic icon for the creators of Substance. And that means that all of these textures are using Substance. So if we go down here, further down, there's a section specifically for Substance. You can also use the M hotkey, and you can activate it or deactivate it, right? Obviously, we want it active in this case. We're going to bake it a little bit later. But for now, you can see the output size is very low, 512 by 512. Generally, you want something a lot higher than that. 2048 is the highest detail this one goes at. So you can see 2048, a lot more detailed. If we took it down to like 128 by 128, obviously this is like 1990s Wolfenstein type of graphics. So let's bring up to 2048 at least, okay? And in the channel section, we don't have to worry about this, nothing really there. This just kind of shows the channels that we're going to be using. Nothing too important there. Basic parameters. This one, with this particular material, there's nothing really important in the basic parameters. There's like normal intensity, for example. If we want to increase the normal intensity, okay, we can do that, which looks pretty good in this case. I think it looks okay. And we can ambient occlusion spreading. So it's going to have a very minimal effect in this case. That's really all I'm going to worry about in the basic parameters. In the advanced parameters, we have the amount of bricks. So here's the first way we can change the amount of bricks in our on our texture, on our surface there. So I'm going to increase this to, for X, increase it to 10. And Y will also increase it to 10. Okay, now that's the highest level we can go for both of these parameters here. And if we see if our character, they're still pretty big, all right? They're still a little bit too big. If we move our character closer to the wall, okay, you can see those are larger than your average bricks, okay? So let's go ahead and go back to advanced parameters. You know, there's stuff like brick offset random, blah, blah, blah. And you can adjust the age of the brick and the depth of the brick. Okay, stuff like this. Okay, and then the bricks color and everything like that. I'm just going to leave those the way they are. But if you come across a case like this, generally what you want to do is you want to go up to UV settings here and adjust the tiling. And you want to make sure that you have Affect All Channels selected. Okay, if you don't have Affect All Channels selected, then it's only going to modify one of these channels. So your bump map may be different from your base color map, maybe different from your ambient occlusion and all these other maps. So what you want to do is just to make sure you have Affect All Channels on there. And we're going to bring it up to like maybe tile 3 and 3. Whoops. Okay, and you can see that looks, you know, decent. I think that's about normal brick size. And don't worry about if there's, you know, repetitive patterns. I mean, most people won't notice. There's other ways you can adjust it to make it more random. But this is what we're going to work with right now. Okay, and so that's really all there is to it. Once you're happy with the tiling that you had, I also want to mention that there's two types of tiling here. There's this UV tiling up top here, UV settings. And if we also go down to the very bottom, there's this UV settings as well. And you can do the exact same thing here and apply it. The difference here is you can actually apply it to different types of shapes, like cylindrical, capped, spherical, and everything like that. And you can align it on different axes. So it's more detailed. And when you select apply, it's going to just apply that. It'll load for a second, then it'll apply it. With this one up here, you can use it. It's right away. And you notice that anything that's green, any parameter that's green in iClone, you can animate it. So if I wanted to, for example, I could have, you know, at a later frame, I could make the amount of bricks like gradually reduce as we're moving along the timeline. I'm not sure why I'd want to do that unless this guy's on LSD or something, but you know, that's something that you can do because it's animated, right? Okay, but once we're happy with, you know, this section of brick wall here, then what we're going to do is essentially just bake everything. Okay, and you can see, and the reason we're going to bake everything is because when you have these substance materials, these substance textures loaded up here, it's taking a little bit more resources, and it may lag down your system if you have like, you know, 10 of these walls and they're all like using substance. That means they're all being procedurally generated, which means you can animate them, they can change, they can age. And so it takes up a lot more processing space. So if you don't need them to change or anything like that, then what you want to do is just bake them all. Okay, so just select all your different texture channels here, like base color, and go down to bake substance texture. Okay, and then same with bump, just like basically bake them all, and you'll see the little logarithmic symbol will disappear. Okay, and this is what we want to do first. Okay, cool. So we have our first section of brick wall. So how do we make a room out of this brick wall? Well, it's actually really easy. I'm going to hold the control key, very important. Hold the control key and click and drag on my movement gizmo there, and click and drag it, and boom, it just snaps to another section of wall here. Boom. All right. So we have these two sections of wall. If we go to our scene manager, excuse me, we have wall 1, and then we have wall 1, 0 in parentheses. What we can do is, we can technically merge these into one single wall section if we want. So if I select this copy of the wall and I go to modify, I can just go down to, whoops, we need to go to our attributes here. And we can go down here to attach and pick parent, and then pick the original section of wall. Okay. And when we do that, now you can see it's one big wall section. And if we go to our scene manager, this section here is kind of like a child of this main section here. Now, if you want to just merge them permanently, you can always do that as well. You can go to modify and, excuse me, where is it here? Maybe on this one here. You can merge subprop. So you have to go to the parent prop and select merge subprop here. And that'll make them, change them all into one single prop. So just go to merge subprop. And then when we do that, go to the scene manager. And now you can see it's just one big prop. There's no child, there's nothing else like that. Okay, we've created this one wall here. If I want to make it, wall on the other side, I can press the W hotkey. And notice that the pivot point is still over here in the middle of the original wall section. If I want to adjust that to like the middle, for example, what I can do is I can go to the Modify tab and go down here to Pivot. And you can set the pivot point to wherever you want. The top section here, the bottom section here. Now, the cool thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to press the E hotkey. So E will bring up the rotation gizmo. And I can rotate it like this, like that. Okay, pretty cool. Control Z and undo that. And now if I want, I can just hold the control key and click and drag, and it'll create another section of wall just like this, okay? And this is rotated. If you want to see exactly the angle that it's rotated at, go up here to your transform section here. You can see it's rotated. I almost got it. It's like negative 89.8. If we want it to be exactly 90 degrees, we just enter in negative 90 here. Okay, and it'll just move very slightly. And if we want, we can scale this. You can see that it extends a little bit on the floor, beyond the floor there. Really no worries about that. I'm just going to go ahead and take this one, press the W hotkey, and now I'm going to move the pivot point to, where is pivot? There we go, in the middle now. And it doesn't matter if it's middle top or middle bottom, whatever. And then I'm going to control, click and drag, and snap. There we go. So there's our third section of wall. Now this one I'm just going to make invisible because we don't really need it at this point. I'm just going to keep it with these two walls. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and use this visibility item up here in the toolbar and make it invisible. Okay, it's still there, just invisible. And if we want, some people have a little bit of a issue here with this little section popping out, we can always just press the R hotkey on our floor to scale it. And in this case, what I want to do is I want to scale from over here. Sometimes it takes a little bit of a, let's go to front maybe. There we go. It's back. There we go. And what I'd want to do is I want to press the R hotkey and scale from here. Okay, there we go. So it'll just kind of pop into place there. Boom. All right, so we have the section of walls there, and we have our floor. I'm just going to quickly throw in a substance onto the floor, and then we'll move on to adding some character animation. Okay, we have a lot to cover here, so I'm going to kind of whip through this pretty quick here. So same kind of process. I can just throw in this concrete 05 onto our floor. Okay, or this concrete 11 maybe. This one kind of looks a little bit more interesting. And you can see it's very obviously the resolution. So we need to go up to our modify and materials and fix that just like we did before. Change your output size to 2048. Basic parameters in this one, and I'm not going to worry too much. Advanced parameters, I think it has like, yeah, weathering. Okay, cool. Make it more weathered, whatever. Maybe less pebbles. Whatever we want. And then let's just tile it maybe 3. All right, looks good enough. You know, there may be some repetition, but yeah, you can always fix that later by adjusting the substance in more detail. But for now, I'm just going to work with this, and we'll go ahead and bake everything just like we did before. Just again, save resources. And then we will move on to getting our character sitting in a chair. And we're going to use something cool called reach targets. Okay, so we have that all set up. Let's go ahead and throw in a chair into our scene now. Now, if you have a lot of content like I do on this computer, you can go over to your smart gallery here. Oh, I've already done it. I was kind of messing around a little bit beforehand. Just go to your main smart gallery folder. You can just go in the search field and type in chair. Okay, and then all the content packs that you have that contain chairs will pop up. Okay, if they are grayed out, that means I haven't downloaded them yet on this particular computer. Okay, so I've downloaded a few of them, but this abandoned hospital is one that I've downloaded. So I'm going to go into that pack there. And you can see we have this cool chair. I'm just going to quickly throw that in there. Shazam, we have a chair. It's a very, very simple scene, right? We only have an hour to do everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my character and I'm going to seat him in this chair. And the easiest way to do that is just move him forward like this. You can always, wherever your character is in the scene, if he's like off somewhere you can't see him, you can always use this tool up here, align to, this one that I have moused over, it's not showing up there, align to or Control L, and just align to, and you can select the chair, move X, Y, Z, examine your zipper, and there you go. So he's in the middle of the chair now, and then we can press W, move him forward like this. And you're probably wondering what's the easiest way to make him sit down. You got to go up here to your Modify tab and to Attributes, and or rather to your Animation tab, rather. And the easiest way to do that is to go to your Edit Motion Layer tool. Okay, this is your keyframe editing tool in iClone. Just click it, and I'm not going to explain too much about this. You can see he has locks. This T and the R on his ankle bones, that stands for transform and rotation. They're both locked, okay? If those are both enabled, then if I move my character, like his hip, for example, you can see if I move him down, his feet will stay in the same position. His ankles are locked, and everything else will react according to human IK, or inverse kinematics. Okay, so we can just kind of, throw him in this chair somewhere like this. I'm not going to worry about the small details. All right, there he is seated down. If we wanted to spread his legs apart, for example, a little bit, we can just do that. Once you select the legs, or the ankles rather, and move them independently, then they'll move like this, okay? There you go. And the next item of business is to get his arms kind of behind his back, since we're going to put him in some handcuffs. Let's take his back and rotate it a little bit slightly farther back first. And you can click on these individual bone sections here. You can press E to rotate, just like I did before. Okay. And then if I want both arms to rotate simultaneously, I can just go to Mirror and take his shoulders here and move them both down. I can fly. Anyways, bring him down like this. And probably want to bring him back a little bit. Okay, it's always a bit tricky to get your characters in these kind of positions. Rotate them slightly. Very uncomfortable positions, obviously. Handcuffs are never comfortable, I imagine. And then just take his hands, and we can actually, we'll take the elbows in this case and just rotate the elbows. Okay, I think that's good. You need to be out a bit like that. Okay, again, I'm not going to go worry too much about the details. Maybe his arms biting into the mesh of the chair a little bit. We could always take that chair and just easiest way to adjust that would be to scale the chair down. But I'm just going to go ahead and try and get his arms in the position first, in the correct position that we want. So let's bring it a little bit closer together. Like this. These slightly closer together. So I'm going to bring there we go. And then we'll rotate his hands outwards. Okay, not that much maybe. And again, just tweaking it slightly so his arms are close enough there to be locked in the cuffs. All right, I'm not going to worry too much about the details. I think his arm is twisted a bit too much here. Yeah, you got to be always worried about that kind of stuff. All right, we'll keep it right here for now. We can always bring it closer together a little bit later on. There you go. I'll work with that. It looks okay from whatever angle. Okay, so that's where we're going to work with that for now, and bring him right there. And I'm going to throw in some handcuffs. So I'm going to go into my smart gallery, and I can just type in cuffs, I believe. Oh, maybe hand. Oh, I'm in the still in the abandoned hospital, so let's type it in cuff. And we have this policeman uniforms and gears pack. Now this is not embedded with iClone. I mean to be aware of that. This is actually for a separate purchase in the content store from one of our really good developers, Adolph Navarro, and AKA Antarius. And I'll throw this handcuffs in here. And then we just need to get the handcuffs in position. Yoop. 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 There we go. Okay, good enough. Whoops. Let's make sure that those are relatively in the correct position. Oh, in this case, I also want to press Control M so it does not snap to model. So I just press Control M there, and now you can see the movement is a lot smoother because it's not trying to snap to his wrist bones and stuff. Okay, there you go. Yada yada. And again, pressing the E hotkey, W hotkey to get your everything into position. And that's fine. I'm not going to sweat the small stuff. They're kind of digging into his arm there. Okay, let's go ahead with the next step here. And the next step is to use the reach targets for your character. So the easiest way to get your character's hands to kind of conform to the position and rotation of these handcuffs is to use reach targets. You can use a similar process for stuff like having your character ride a bicycle. So your feet actually have reach targets as well. And stuff like holding a baseball bat. So if you want your character to have a baseball bat and use IK to swing the baseball bat, you need to use this process as well. So this is fairly important whenever you want to have your character use tools. So let's go ahead and select Edit Reach Target here for our character. Make sure that our character is selected there. Whoops. Oh, make sure he's, I think he's selected. Oh, we had the biker vest selected there. Okay, so character, reach target. Okay, now he has these reach targets on his hands here. And you can see if I select the hand, that's his left hand. And I'm just going to select Reach Effector. And that brings up a really big orange ball. Okay, don't worry about it, it's just a dummy. You can see it has target is selected for dummy hand. And we'll do the same thing for the other hand here as well. Okay, so we have those up, and basically that's all we really need for this window, so we can close it down. If we go to our scene manager now, you can see now under the character, we have these reach dummies. And if we twirl that down, we have the reach dummy hand, which you can see is visible right here, and reach dummy hand for the right hand, which is visible right there. What I like to do is scale these down a little bit by pressing the R hotkey and scale them down. It doesn't matter how much you scale them. It just matters that the pivot point is in the middle. Okay, so you can scale them down as much as you want. Okay, cool. So now basically what happens is wherever I move this orange sphere, my character's hand is going to move as well. Okay, so I'm not moving his arm. I'm not moving his hand. I'm moving the dummy. Okay, I can just Control Z and undo that. So what I need to do here is attach these dummies to my handcuffs. And I'm going to select the handcuff right here. You can see it has a few different parts in it. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to basically use the same process I did before and merge the subprops. Okay, just because we want to kind of be in the middle, the attachment. And what I'm going to do is Scene Manager. We'll select our dummy right hand, and we want to attach it. Go to our Modify tab. We want to attach it to, you can see right now it's attached to Reach Dummy. We're going to select Pick Parent, and we're going to select the handcuffs. Okay. Or, you can just pick Parent, and you can choose it from the Scene Manager here, the main handcuff there. Okay, which is going to be the pivot point in the middle. And then you can see it, the dummy becomes a subprop of that. And we'll do the same thing for the other hand there as well. Right hand, modify, pick parent, and just always do it from, I like to do it from the Scene Manager because it's more accurate. Okay, and now if I move my handcuffs there, both of my character's hands are going to move along like this. Okay, pretty cool. So we can make those dummies invisible. We don't need to see them anymore. I'm just going to quickly, his hands look a little stiff here. So I'm going to go just into use our Edit Motion Layer tool here. And if you click and drag on the palms of these hands here, you can kind of have them in a little bit more of a, natural pose as opposed to just, whoops, straight out like that. I'm just going to deselect mirror and reposition them slightly. Oops, Control Z. And again, I'm not able to reposition the hands. And the reason for that is because those hands are still stuck on the reach effector. So we actually have to adjust the reach effector instead of the hands. Forgot about that. Go to our Scene Manager here, dummy, and just kind of move the dummy. Okay. You can now move them individually. Just kind of put them more in the position where they're not biting into the handcuffs as much. Okay, I think we're good right there. What I'll do is I'll just take this chair and if you wanted to avoid the mesh breakage, I can select the chair and scale it down slightly. Bring it forward. There we go. All right. Now, the reason why I did this is because what we can do is we can now animate these handcuffs and have our character struggle in the handcuffs. Now, this is pretty cool. If I go to my, select my handcuffs here, and I go to Modify, and in Animation, we have something called the Prop Puppet tool. Now, this is, you may be familiar with like the Face Puppet tool for your character or the Body Puppet tool. And anything that has puppet on it, basically you just animate it using your mouse movements. It's a really quick and dirty way to animate stuff. So I'm going to select Prop Puppet here. And if I just use my basic move, vertical movement, and I press preview, you can see I can move. You can see that the timeline is moving along. So it's not recording it, it's previewing it right now. But if I wanted to have my character struggle, I could do something like this and like, and then we can add more animation on later. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a more advanced one. And you can see here we have stuff like rotate, okay? There's like this rotate Z. There's just these different presets here. Let's try this one here, this rotate. It rotates around the y-axis there. So if you can see that one, how it moves the character. And if you want to add, make that rotation a little bit less severe, maybe do something like put it at a level of 200 there. And then your character is like, going to be more like that. And if you want to add some movement onto that, then select move here and maybe put in a value of like 20 on the Z-axis, 20 on the Y-axis, and like 20 on the X-axis maybe. Let's see what that does here. Okay, so now you can move up and down like this. And it's just kind of moving slightly. I think this value could also be taken down a little bit. And sorry if I'm going through this a little fast for you guys, but I think I just kind of want to show you that you can add movement and rotation all together like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just record about 500 frames of this. Now, keep in mind, this animation isn't going to be tied to the, whoops, it's not going to be tied to the character. It's going to be tied to the prop. Okay, the prop is going to be animated. The character is just going to follow along. So it's not going to be animated on the character's timeline. If I press the record button here, let's go ahead and do that for about 500 frames or so. So he's struggling, like, you know, I'm going to get you, whatever, blah, blah, blah. He's just kind of struggling. Okay. And don't worry if like the, press space to stop. Don't worry if the handcuffs are biting through the mesh right now. We're gonna, because we're doing it quick and dirty right now. So now we have this. If I play back, now we have our character kind of, you know, moving his arms, rotating like this, which is pretty cool. We have all that animation already recorded. So I'm going to close out the prop puppet now, and we're going to use the character puppet now. So we're going to take use the same kind of procedure, and this time we're going to animate our character's body. And that's going to combine with the arm animation that we just had. Now, if I select my character, you can see now we have what's called a direct puppet tool. And this is for basically the same thing. If I go and select direct puppet, here I can do the same thing. So there's stuff like movement, screen-based, horizontal, vertical. And again, I don't have much time to go into the details on this. I'm just going to select my character's chest bone here. And we're going to use rotation. And we're just going to use screen-based rotation, or primary rotation will work as well. And preview. You can see here, now I can move my character's body kind of back and forth and add to that struggling. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly do that and record it. Okay, so he's just kind of struggling. I think we did about 500-600 frames last time, so let's just go to that level. Okay, so 530 frames. So now we have, if we play back, we have our character struggling like this. Okay, so now we've just animated a struggle, which would probably take quite a while to animate if you're using keyframes. But yeah, we've just done it in like a couple seconds. Of course, it's like quick and dirty, but like super useful for stuff like previs and whatnot. And you can always adjust it in more detail later using keyframe animation. You can always edit on top of that. Okay, so that's all we're going to do for the body animation for this character. What I'm going to do, let's just move my zoom thing up here. Let's just keep this at about 530 frames. Move our project length slider, which is this little green triangle, to that level. And what I'm going to do is we're going to go back to frame 1 here, and then we're going to layer on top of that some head animation as well. So, and this time we're going to use the face puppet tool. You can probably guess for the sake of brevity here, to make it quicker, I'm using all the puppet tools. I'm not doing keyframe animation at all. So I'm going to use the face puppet tool here, which is essentially the same thing, just for the face. Okay. And this one I'm just going to use some like this. Let's go ahead and use one of these profiles here, like a Zane profile. Okay. And if I go here, there's like an angry face control right here. If I preview, you can see if we move my mouse around, he's going to have this angry kind of look like that. Okay. If I don't want his eyes to move when this is happening, I can click on the eyeballs and make those deselected. Whoops. I clicked them twice in this case here. Okay. So now he's looking around wherever his head is facing. If we can also increase the strength on that to like 2. Okay, you can see now is a more severe expression on his face. And so on and so forth. There's lots more stuff you can do with this tool, but I'm just going to go ahead and use this for now. And we're going to record 500 frames of him just kind of struggling in anger. So I'm going to press record and go ahead and do that. So, okay, and of course you can layer on top of that with various keyframe animations to refine it. But the name of the game today is Quick and Dirty, so we have that. And that's basically it for our first character's animation. We use the face puppet. So now we have to have the police officer walk behind him, and then we'll do our dialogue really quickly. So the officer walking behind him is going to use a couple of motions from a content pack. Now you don't have to use this content pack, but I'm going to show you it for the sake of being fast here. I have this. I have to go into the folder here to find that particular character. So webinar. This one is complete workflow. Yes. So we have this corrupt cop character. Let's bring him in here. He has those kind of evil-looking shades. They're aviators. They're not that evil, but I guess with some people, if you have like a bald head or something, maybe they look a little bit more threatening. Anyways, okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a couple of animations on this character. The first thing I'm going to do is rotate him 90 degrees this direction. You can always, of course, see over here the value that was off 85 degrees. And I'm going to have him use a motion that I'm going to find from the Smart Gallery here. And this is from a content pack called City Motions. City. If I just type in city, it should pop up here. Oh, City Life. Okay, so this is the one right here. And you can see all these motions. I'm just going to quickly apply these. Okay, so there's a one called, what is it, Wander, I think. Let's type in Wander. Yeah, so there's this Wander one. I like to use this because it's a bit slower and more, pensive. If I just apply it to our character, whoops. Let's press escape on that. Make sure we're at frame 1 first. Rotate him 90 degrees at frame 1. Yeah, there we go, -90. And then I can just right click and remove animation to remove any object animation from other subsequent frames. Okay, back to our Smart Gallery. Let's apply this Wander. Let's move him a little bit further back first. I'm not sure how far he's going to wander. Okay, if we play back. All right, perfect. And then the next one is, it's called Chat Stand, okay? So chat, let's type in chat. And then we have this chat stand somewhere here for mail, okay? There we go. And then he just kind of, hello, yada, yada, yada. Let me just talk about stuff. Needs to be a little bit longer. Okay. All right, so we have our motion like this. Now, one quick thing, one quick adjustment I'm going to make to this motion. If we zoom in and we scrub through our timeline, notice if I press, I'm going to press F3 and go into the timeline here. And you can see that there's 2 motion clips in the motion track for our character. And these are the 2 motions that we applied to our character, okay? So if I play back from this one to this one, I'll just kind of stand there and then kind of do that. Now, what we want to do to avoid that is make this motion clip closer to this one. And then we can use this little section here, which is kind of like an empty highlighted section. That's called our transition area. We can click and drag that and make it longer to have more of a smooth transition between the 2 motions. Okay. Now, one problem here is that you'll see that if you pay close attention to his feet, there's going to be some sliding, which we're going to need to fix. So see here, it just kind of slides. Not cool, man, not cool. There's a couple ways you can fix this. I'm going to show you a kind of an interesting way. I'm just going to right click in the transition area, and we're going to select Create Transition Clip. So what this does is that changes that whole transition area into a separate clip. So what's going to happen here is right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click in the transform track at the very beginning of the transition clip right there. And notice that his left foot in particular, just kind of slides ahead. Now, we don't want that to happen, okay? So we want that left foot to be right here until about here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it back, just like this. Okay. So we have now is the left foot kind of remaining stationary. Not quite, it needs to be further back still. Just like that. I think that should fix it. Okay, there you go. All right, so that's one way you can kind of fix that foot sliding there. You'll just take that that foot right there. Another way you can do it is if I Control Z, you don't actually need that transition area at all. I'm going to Control Z everything back. What I can actually do is just make that transition a little bit shorter. So as his right foot is landing, that's where we're going to start our transition. Okay, and we're going to double click on the transform track right there, and we're going to ensure that that right foot doesn't slide backwards. This is probably the easier way. The other way is kind of a bit more complicated, but this is probably the easier way. And just kind of move that back. I'm just eyeballing this, by the way. So his right foot lands, and we need to make sure it doesn't slide back too much. Maybe a little bit more forward right there. Just make sure you have one transform keyframe at the very beginning of the transition area, the first frame, and also the very first frame of your actual clip. So what's going to happen now is we have this. Okay, so that's completely avoid the foot sliding issue right there. So just be aware of that. Let's move on to other stuff since we have a lot of other stuff to cover here. The one thing I want to talk about before we get to the dialogue is having our character look at the character, or having our corrupt cop look at the gangster character there. So look at is a very easy thing in iClone. If we just go to our modify tab with the character selected here, we have this option here to look at. I'm going to select pick target, and I'm going to pick this guy's big old bald head. All right, and you can see now that the corrupt cop character will look at him, and you can determine the weight between the eyes and the head. Okay, so right now we're just kind of going to leave it at mainly towards the head. And if we play back, you look at him like this until it gets to like this point. It looks a little bit weird. So what you can do is if you press F3 and go into the timeline, under the corrupt cop characters, there's actually a track called constraint. So if we load up our constraint track right here and twirl that down, you can see we have the look at constraint, and there's a line that goes all the way. What I can do here is maybe at a frame like this right here, where it's getting a little bit too ridiculous, we can select the character and we can select set free. Okay. So here he's still going to be looking at him like this, and then gradually he just stops. And here is where it officially sets free, and then he'll just kind of move on to the other section right here. Okay, so we've basically got our animation in place. Let's throw in some really quick lip sync animation, and then we'll move on, I think, to the camera work quickly and the lighting, which we won't have much time to cover, about 5 minutes. So I'm going to go to the character first. He's struggling, I believe. So I'm going to click on him, and we're going to go to motion, create script. And I have some audio files already prepared here. That's a different webinar. Complete workflow, struggling, okay. So we play back.
Get me out of here.
And I believe the police officer says the next line. So we'll go to create script. And we need to have him selected first. Create script and audio file. And he says, we know what you did with the money, Lebowski.
We know you have the money, Lebowski, and you're going to tell us one way or the other.
Okay. And then we're just going to move our slider up here, and then we'll do the same thing for, I guess his name is Lebowski. So we'll click on him and do the same thing. Create script and audio file again. He says, I already told you, I don't have it, blah, blah, blah.
I already told you I don't know where the money is. Just let me go.
Okay, so that's what we're going to work with right now. In terms of the facial animation, if you guys want to know more about the facial animation and stuff, I can teach you a bit more later. Let's focus on maybe this character right here and what he does in his audio script there. So let's zoom in onto his face here. Okay, so his line goes from about this frame here. Let's make our project length just that length for now. I like to just do that to focus on the area.
We know you have the money, Lebowski.
Okay, so maybe not the best lip sync results right now. But what you can do is you can actually go to, I'm going to press F3 and I'm going to show you the difference between a different type of lip sync. I'm going to press F3, go into our timeline here, and we're going to go to the Visine track, which is going to be your lip sync right here. If we twirl it down, we can see our audio file, our wavelength, and the various lip sync keyframes down here. Let's just adjust the project length slightly. And let's delete that one. And I'm going to show you, if we go back here, I'm going to create script, and there's something called Aculips, which is our new lip syncing. And this is a lot better than the previous version. And there's a lot more flexibility with it as well. You can use text to speech. You can record your voice, or you can open an audio file. Of course, we're going to open an audio file on this one. We're going to do the same one. And we're going to select generate text. So what this does is it actually creates text from your audio file, and you can adjust and fix that text. And I think, honestly, in the last few years of iClone, I honestly feel that Aculips is one of the best and most useful features in your projects. Because the results are very accurate, and you rarely have to adjust things. And if you want to adjust them, there's many ways you can do that. So let's just make sure we have everything. We know you have the money, because I guess Lebowski is not in the dictionary here. So you can just create it basically like editing a Word file. And I'm not sure how it's going to translate Lebowski. Let's just do that. Okay, so we just play it back really quickly here.
Lebowski, and you're going to tell us one way or the other.
Okay, so it says like hone way. So we're going to change hone to one way or the other. And let's just go ahead and select align. And let's pay attention to where the wavelengths are according to the words here. If I just zoom out a little bit here. Oops. Oh, yes. Okay, whatever. We can add those words. We're going to add Lebowski to the dictionary. You can actually create your own dictionary of words too. All right, so we have about 7 minutes to go. Let's just zoom out a little bit and see and play back.
We know you have the money, Lebowski, and you're going to tell us one way or the other.
Okay, so yeah, generally the results are fairly good. They're fairly accurate. Once you're done that, just go ahead and select apply. And it's going to create this little clip down here. And now you'll notice that the wavelength has the different specific words on it. And you can adjust the position and timing and emphasis on all these words. I don't really have time to go into that right now, but let's take a look at the lip sync results now.
We know you have the money, Lebowski, and you're going to tell us one way or the other.
Okay, pretty cool. I think the results are fairly accurate. You can just right click. If you want, you can select talking style editor. You can select a preset here, like if you want the character to be like mumbling or yelling. Let's take a quick look at the difference between mumbling and yelling. If I click on the mumbling preset, then all the Visine strengths are going to be really low. So you're going to have your character almost like mumbling his dialogue there.
We know you have the money, Lebowski, and you're going to tell us one way or the other.
Okay, let's take a look at the difference between that, for example, and right click and maybe show like bellowing. I think the bellowing one's quite strong. Okay. If we play back.
We know you have the money, Lebowski, and you're going to tell us one way or the other.
Okay, so you can see the very, very noticeable difference between the two types of talking style editor presets. I'm just going to use like maybe this, I like the enunciating one. It's generally fairly strong and not too strong though. Okay.
No, you have the money, Lebowski.
Okay, good enough. Anyways, so I just want to show you that Aculips. There's lots of other stuff you can do for facial animation, but I don't want time to get into it right now. What I want to do first is for the next, let's see, I guess it's the next 5 minutes or so, I'm going to really quickly whip up some lighting and then some camera as well. The most important is the lighting, so let's go ahead and get that started first. This thing needs to be lit, something a bit more menacing, in a bit more of a menacing environment. So what I like to do with lighting is I like to start from scratch. So to start from scratch in lighting, just go to your scene manager, go to your lights, and I'm just gonna, whoops, that's props, not lights. What am I doing here? Select lights, except for the floor shadow. I'm just gonna delete all of them, okay? And even though we deleted all the lights, there's still light in the scene. And if you want to find out where that light's coming from, go to your visual tab. And under visual, we have ambient light. The color is normally black, so this normally doesn't have any effect. But you have an HDR or an IBL image right here. If we deactivate that IBL, suddenly, boom, everything goes pitch black, okay? If you want to go to this button up here, you can select auxiliary light. And this gives you like just kind of quick shading, very, very quick shading type of light in your scene where there's no shadows or anything like that. This is a good way to, if you're just doing animation editing and you don't want to worry about shadows and light and all that stuff, global illumination, subsurface scattering, you can just use this auxiliary light here rather. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and start with a quick light here. I'm going to create light and I'm going to create a spotlight. The difference between spotlights and point lights, spotlights have shadows, point lights do not. Okay, so point lights are more for ambient type of lighting. I'm going to select spotlight here, and we can align the spotlight. A really quick and easy way to do this is align it. Select align, align to, and let's align to, I guess his name, Kevin. Doesn't sound like a very intimidating name. Did we do that right? Align to Kevin. Okay, so I guess it's already aligned to him. If I press the W hotkey, we can, oh, we have Kevin selected. Let's not move Kevin. Let's move our spotlight. And you can also have it look at Kevin too. If you want to make it quick and easy, go to, with the light selector, go to modify and select look at, pick target, and let's pick this bald head again there. Okay, so you can see it's a little bit behind him. If we move over here, just like this, we can press the W hotkey, move it right above him. Okay, and let's take a look at him now. Here. There's a couple of things we can do here. I'm going to move it a little bit forward, just like this. Okay, and I'm going to show you the difference between how you can adjust the shadow difference on your character. So let's add a little bit of IBL in here just so we can kind of see stuff. Obviously not that much. We want to take it down to like a very, very low level, maybe like a value of 1 even. Okay, and you can also change your IBL map to something darker as well. Let's take it off for now. I want to show you the shadows more importantly. Let's go over here to shadow map. We're going to adjust our resolution. I like to have very high shadow resolution. I like to have very high strength. Okay, and now you can see it looks a lot more realistic. And I like to also have a very low level of bias. So maybe like -1 or something like that. And you can see, if you notice, like maybe like under his jacket lapels right there, if we change between like -1 bias and -5 bias, the shadows are more accurate when you have less bias. So I take 0 bias. Just be aware sometimes you do need some sort of bias, -1, something like that, because there may be some sort of like artifact issues in certain cases. That comes and goes. You can change your global darkness multiplier. Okay. If you want global illumination, you can throw that on there as well. And global illumination just kind of adds some bouncing, back and forth of the light in your scene. If we take that off, obviously the shadows are not as dark. If we add the global illumination on, it's a bit more realistic. And you can throw on more shadow details as well for global illumination. Again, there's shadow bias here as well. Ambient strength doesn't have much of an effect in this particular case, but bounce strength will have a large effect. If we increase the bounce strength, then there's, it's almost like IBL, but it's kind of limited to where that light is having an effect. So, bounce strength, keep it fairly low. Okay. And yeah, I think we're gonna just deal with that one light right there. What I'm gonna do is zoom out here. And let's bring another light in, just kind of right behind that one. So if I want all the same settings, whoops, I forgot to actually change the settings on the light itself too. And that's something very important. So for the light itself, if we go to modify, we need to have the light selected first. Yeah, we do have it selected. Very important settings for the lights. Multiplier, make the light stronger or darker. Because this is a spotlight, maybe I do want to have it like stronger, something like this, right? Maybe a value of something like, I think 3 point something would be good. And you can increase the shadow on this one as well. And that kind of fights a little bit with the bounce of the global illumination. Okay, and the intensity, very important as well. If we increase the intensity, it gets darker. Decrease the intensity, it's sort of a very light balance here. So just be aware of that. Okay, and then there's other sorts of things right here that are not really important, but I wanted to show you the multiplier, very important. The shape is also important in some cases. If you want to get into more detail, like the tube or the rectangle, these are mostly used if you're having the light directly on the character's face and you want to look at like eyeball reflections. But in this case, that's not something we need to worry about. So let's quickly create another light in the background and copy that. So I'm going to use that quick and dirty control, click and drag to create another copy of the light. And this one's also stuck looking at Kevin. Okay, so it's looking at him from behind. Let's make this one not look at him. Let's set free. Okay, and let's rotate it so that it's, oops, where are we here? Press the E hotkey and make it like 0 on the x-axis there. And kind of bring it a little bit forward. And for this one, what I can do is just maybe expand it, expand the angle. So I showed you the angle before. And make it a wider angle like this, so we can actually see the officer in the background there. Okay, and we can increase the fall off, make it just kind of more of a faded look. And range, maybe we don't want too much of a range. Okay, we just kind of want to have that little bit of light in the back there. And again, this is all very quick and dirty what I'm doing here. So don't try this at home, otherwise, never mind. Okay, so let's make those both invisible. And let's create our first camera, and then we'll just do a quick camera switch, and then we'll answer the questions, any questions you have. So get your questions ready. We have 2 more minutes, and create a camera here. And our first camera is going to show Kevin struggling in front of our corrupt officer is walking behind him like this. This one, I want to create some quite a bit of distance between the or apparent distance between the guy struggling and the character in the background. So an important aspect to learn about when it comes to camera work is I'm going to go to the Modify tab here with the camera selected. Do we have the camera? Oh, we have the character selected. Camera selected. There we go. Very important is the focal length. If I change it to like a 50mm focal length or 200mm, notice that the higher the focal length here, the closer the background seems. Okay, so if we go to 20, you can see right now it seems that the officer is like way further behind him. 35, Something like 200 would not be what we really want, because we wouldn't be able to see the creepy walk from behind him. So I would be happy with something like 35, and then go to like a distance like this. We could probably slowly pan from right to left as the character in the background walks along. So let's go ahead and just leave it like this, and maybe at a level like this here. Okay, something like this would be okay. Okay, and then play back.
Get me out of here.
Okay, so this is about frame 290. So let's just kind of move to about over here. And if I press F3 and go into my timeline, we'll see that we have the under project. We can select our camera, rather switcher under project. Okay. If I go under here and select my camera, that'll be at the bottom. There we go. Make sure their camera is selected. Yeah, I think it's selected. Yeah, there we go. So we just have two quick transform keyframes right here and here. I'm going to right click on the second one, select transition curve preset, and make sure that it's a ease in and ease out. Okay.
Get me out of here.
Okay, I think that's fine. Yeah, we don't want it to reach his destination until a little while after he does. So we have this very slow pan from one side to the next. And then this is where we want to switch. So I'm going to create a quick camera for the officer's face here. So I'm going to create a camera. And this one we're going to kind of go to this side of the officer's face here. Just ignore the background. And for this particular camera, I think we want to have a much more higher focal length. So I'm going to go to the content here, modify. And let's make sure that we have the camera selected. And this one I'm going to use maybe like 50 or even maybe 80 in this case. Just pretend that we have, prison walls on the other side. And generally, if we have the character close up, we have the character kind of closer to the screen, and the character he's talking to is at a lower height. It's going to kind of give the impression that the character in the foreground is more intimidating and kind of looking down at the character, the other character there. Okay, so I'm going to leave that at a frame like this. We're at frame 323. I want to create a light here for the officer's face, just really quickly again. So let's create light, and let's create a spotlight. I think that'll work. And this one I'm going to align to here, to our character. Press OK. I'm just going to switch to quickly. We'll have it look at our officer. This is just quick and dirty, of course, again. Look at his face, and then press W and move it up. Let's maybe use this value here. That's great. Let's just go back to our, whoops. Need to move my zoom thing out of the way here. And let's just use our preview camera to get a good look at what that lighting might look like. So it is a little bit behind his body there. I want to move it a bit over this way. It needs to look at him, at his face. I'm not sure what it's looking at right now. Oh, it's looking at his hat. That's a weird thing to look at. Oh, it's on this side of his face. That's why. Okay. So maybe something like this. And I think that'll look a lot better. I want this one to be quite soft. I think that'll be a good angle. And let's just make that a lot lighter. Something like that. Okay, so now let's go back to this other camera here. There you go, that'll be all right. So then if I want to switch to this camera at this frame here, 323, I'm gonna press F3, go into my timeline. And we have the switcher tool right here, the switcher track rather. If I right click it, go to camera list, you have cameras, the second camera. If I go back to frame 1 and right click in the switcher track, camera list, choose this camera, boom, all right. We have it at frame 1. And then if I change my switch or my camera to switch camera, it's going to show me the full results. I'm just going to go ahead and close everything down. We'll play back and then we'll answer the questions. All right, just like this. So this is what we're going to have. And just imagine there's kind of creepy music in the background and whatnot.
Get me out of here. We know you have the money, Lebowski, and you're going to tell us one way or the other.
Okay, so obviously a very quick job, but that's kind of the whole process of even getting in some quick camera movement and some lighting into your scene, all within the time frame of 1 hour, starting from scratch, facial animation, body animation, and everything. So, I mean, to animate a project like this and create it from scratch, generally is going to take you a lot of time. I'm talking days with a lot of other tools, and we kind of just whipped it up in an hour here. And if I wasn't explaining things along the way, I could probably be a lot faster, but that's how it goes. All right, let's go to the Q&A session right now. We're a bit 10 minutes over time here. So I'm going to answer your questions. And so any questions you have, please put those in the Q&A section and we will go from there. Maybe if I just Control G, turn off the grid and I change my preferences here or project settings. Oops, to black. There we go. That looks a bit more intimidating. Okay, anyways, Q&A. Okay, Daniel, when I send the characters from CC3 to iClone, the model doesn't look like the same shape-wise. I'm not sure why you'd be having any sort of shape differences going from iClone or from character creator to iClone, Daniel. The only thing I can think of is it would be a bug, or else if you're using like a custom character and the morphs are a little bit adjusted in iClone. Otherwise, it should be exactly the same. I've never heard of any issue of the character changing shape from character creator 3 to iClone, because they're essentially the same program, the same specifications. So if you're having consistent issues with that, I would recommend talking to customer support about that. All right, because it's a technical issue for sure. Just a reminder, guys, I'm not going to be answering questions from the chat window. Okay, so put those in the Q&A window there. Question from Carson. Render question. When I render, some of the avatars lose their smooth movement when the scene is played back as a video file. Carson, so what I might recommend doing is checking your frame rate for your render. Generally, if you may be using something like 24 frames per second, when you render, you need to make sure you have the right frame rate. Just adjust the frame rates and see if that fixes things. Where's the frame rate here? They switched up. Oh yeah, frame rate down up here. Okay, so you can manually adjust the frame rate right here from 60 to 30 to 24. Okay, so try fixing the frame rate and see if that works. That's the only thing I can really think that might be the issue if you've, because the default frame rate is going to be 30, and if you're having that issue with that frame rate, my first troubleshooting tip would be to check your frame rate. The second one would probably be to check your codecs. Make sure that your codecs are all up to date, and make sure all the software is up to date. That's kind of like just your default, process there for troubleshooting, anyways. And anything beyond that would need some, specific troubleshooting. Question from Rudy. When attaching objects to an avatar, for example, a weapon, it looks good when playing the animation in iClone. However, when exporting to Unity, the weapon is levitating on air when the character walks. How can I fix that? I don't have Unity installed on this computer. But you can also try. Generally, if you're going to be using a weapon or something like that, or you're going to have something attached to a character's hand or the character grasping something, I would recommend doing it within the program, within Unity or within Unreal, because just generally there may be specific certain small issues that occur when it comes to attaching one object to your character's hand, the character grasping the weapon or something like that. Generally, the game software itself, or the game design software itself, has tools and functions that allow you to assign this particular weapon to that node on your character's hand. And you'll get more accurate results when you do that. So I wouldn't recommend importing that FBX, and trying to import it with an object attached to the character, like an accessory. You can do that, but what I would recommend is saving the prop or the weapon or whatever it is out separately, as a separate FBX or OBJ or whatever, into Unreal or Unity, and then attaching that within the game program. Obviously this would take some troubleshooting, so I can't really answer this question right now. It would need someone to kind of be there with you. And you can always ask at our forums too as well. When it comes to troubleshooting questions that I can't really show an example of on my screen, I think that the forums are a really good place to ask the question. We have lots of people there who are just really helpful. We have a really good community of users. That's forum.reallusion.com. I can throw it in the chat window for you guys if you want. Where is my chat window? There you go. You can always ask questions at the forums, and you're likely to get a really quick and good answer, because we have a lot of people who have used iClone since before I even started with Reallusion. So, okay, question from Yassine. Let's move on to the next one. Greetings. What happens if we don't bake the adjustment on the materials? Will it affect the final rendered clip? No, it won't affect the final clip if you don't bake it. The only reason I bake those materials is generally the recommendation is if you're done adjusting the materials, you got them to the specifications that you want them to have, they look okay, you don't want to make any more changes, you can just bake them. And what baking does, like I mentioned earlier, is it saves resources in your project. So you don't, the computer isn't processing all those substance materials, because substance materials, procedural textures will take a lot more processing power than just a regular texture map. And especially if there's tons of texture maps on the character or on the scene that you're working with, it can quickly lag things down a little bit. That's the only reason for doing it, just to have a quicker workflow. If you have like double RX 3090s or something like that, if you want a bunch of substances there, and you don't need to bake them. But if you're working with your average run-of-the-mill machine, then might be a good thing to consider. Question from Armando: Will we be able to make or edit our own motion puppet files from regular motion files inside iClone? Yeah, you can mix and match basically motion files with. I'll show you something funny if I wanted to, like for example, in my scene. You can mix and match all sorts of motion tools, and I like kind of messing around with this. I'm just going to show you a really quick, funny example. Let's maybe go to auxiliary light here and change to our preview camera. Okay, so say we had this officer just kind of slowly approaching. What I can do is I can go to the modify tab here. Let's go to our animation and use the motion puppet tool for the body. And if we did something like I don't know, like the mood. Okay, we have this cheering template motion. Okay, this cheering template. If I preview, okay, he'll just kind of sit there and pump his fists, right? But what we can do is we can actually mask out, if we wanted him to continue walking and while he's pumping his fists, we can mask out his lower body like this and then preview. He'd be walking along like this while he's pumping his fist.
Know you.
Obviously, you wouldn't want to do something like that in this kind of nefarious type of scenario, but unless you're like joking around. But, you can do that.
Get me out of here.
Have him do it
We
slowly
know
as
you
well.
have the money, Lebowski, and you're going to tell us one way or
Less
the
exaggeration.
I already told you.
All sorts of ways. I love messing out with this motion puppet tool just for fun, just because there's so many cool things you can do with it. But that's one example of how you can mix those two together, and you can record it. And then if you want, you can remove the animation from one arm, and you can adjust the position using keyframe animation. There's tons of motion tools, and that's probably something I'm the most familiar with in iClone is the motion tools. So yeah, tons of options. They can be mixed and matched. To answer your question, Armando, there's just not enough time to go into all the ways you can do it. A question from Anthony: are there any plans to add a hotkey to rotation to move objects 45 degrees at a time? And even add a preference to select how many degrees. Oh, so maybe something like Unreal. Yeah, to move objects 45 degrees at a time. I don't think we have that in the preferences, actually. Oh, there's angle snap. Yeah, there's angle snap here. So you can adjust the angle snap, but you're only allowed to do one angle at a time. So you can't do like 10 and then 45 and then whatever. It only allows you to set to one specific angle. So if you set that to 10, then it would snap at every 10 degrees, for example. Yeah, that's how you would do it, Anthony. You would need to go into preferences and angle snap and change the angle manually right there. Right, question from Ian. Any tips for configuring iClone 7 for getting the most out of the RTX 3090 graphics? Well, first of all, congratulations for grabbing a 3090. I've been looking for for quite a while here because I'm needing to upgrade really quick. But I mean, to be honest with you, if you have that graphics card, you don't really need to optimize iClone to use it. We did most of our testing for iClone 7.9 with a GTX generation, just for precautions. Anything above that, you shouldn't have any issue. I can't really give you any hints on or specifications on how you can tweak that, because you should be able to run iClone no problem, and maybe a couple iClones at a time. Let's go to the next question here from anonymous attendee. I would like to know if it's possible to make an animation with a dog on a leash and a character who walks in. Yeah, absolutely. So I think the process I showed you earlier with the reach targets, that would be the similar process to having that leash on your dog, for example. Now, in terms of having a leash, like an actual rope leash from the collar to your character's hand, you would need a physics object for that, likely. That's what I would probably recommend, like a physics rope or something. I know you can purchase some that are pre-made on the marketplace, but you can also make your own. I haven't done that in ages, but yeah, in terms of a physics leash, that goes into a whole new can of worms. But you can do it. You can also purchase them on the marketplace. I'm pretty sure. Oops, marketplace. Should have this in my history anyways. I haven't looked at for a leash for a long time, but I remember they had them before. For iClone. I might just wait for that to load, I guess. Man, Chrome, you're going super slow today. Maybe I should have just used Firefox instead. Anyways, yeah, that's where you can search for leashes. Leash. I'm not sure if it'll pop up. I'm just totally, oh, nothing. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Dog. I know a dog will bring up a bunch of stuff. Ooh, look at that dog. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't want to browse through the marketplace now, but you can search on the marketplace, and there are some physics leashes. Or again, like I mentioned, you can create your own as well. Maybe we'll have another webinar on something like that. Question from Julius: How easy or hard is it to make the cop turn slightly towards Kevin, not just his head, but his body also? So I think maybe you're talking about the trajectory of his path. Maybe to get closer to Kevin. That's a pretty good question, actually. You can see right now he's just kind of going straight forward. I'm going to press Control G and turn on the grid here. Let's hide our floor to kind of see a bit of a better example. So right now he's basically walking, whoops, right along the line. Let's make this wall invisible too. Man, that looks like it hurts. His handcuffs. Anyway, so right along this line here. I mean, the easiest way to do that, if you go to frame 1 and you rotate your character by pressing the E hotkey, notice that if I rotate him, you think, oh, hey, maybe he'll move directly in that direction. No, he's. Let me just turn off this annoying grunting. Every time I play back, it's super annoying. No, he'll just kind of face that direction and slide forward. What you would have to do if you want him to move in that direction, specifically because we're using what's called a root motion, and a root motion is a motion that contains the transform root difference inside the motion clip. So what I would have to do is at frame 1. What I would have to do is the easiest way is just to reapply the same clip. So if I just rotate him like 45 degrees or whatever angle like this, and I go to my smart gallery, I think it was wander, right? Like this, just apply it again. And what'll happen now is he'll wander in that direction. That's just the easiest way to do it. To be honest, for these particular motions, if you're using like transform motions where your character is running in place and you have to adjust the transform position, then yeah, that's a different process. But if you want to change a trajectory of where he's going using these type of motions, then you just want to reapply the motion. Rotate him first before you apply the motion, and then apply the motion. And he'll go in whatever direction you want him to go in. All right. Question from Jefferson. What are the best practices for handling multiple scenes? For example, this interrogation scene and a jail scene along with other scenes. Yeah, you would definitely create different projects for each scene. Because obviously a jail cell is going to have different props and different objects in the scene than the other ones. So you just want to save them as separate project files. Absolutely. You wouldn't want to try and put them in the same scene. That would just be my general recommendation. Question from Julius. What render engine is iClone using? Is there a render farm setting to send to a render farm? iClone just uses a proprietary render engine right now. We are working currently on getting something a lot better. That's going to be launched fairly quickly this year here. So the render quality is going to be enhanced quite significantly in the very near future, which means you're going to get much more realistic looking character renders and a lot of other things as well. Some of you may be familiar with what Blender uses right now. We may be kind of approaching that area. I can't reveal too much right now, but yeah, the render quality this year is going to be improved. There's no render farm setting right now. In terms of getting a render farm option for the new improvement, I believe that I believe it will be supported. Yeah, I'm like 90% sure. Question from Jeezy. Can you please show about the pivot points and animation matching in iClone? Well, pivot points I showed earlier at the very beginning. I'm not sure what you mean by animation matching. But yeah, maybe you can clarify that one a little bit, GZ. I don't want to just kind of go off on a tangent. Yeah, I did show the pivot points at the beginning with the props, and animation matching, I think, might have been the clips, blending the clips together. If that's the case, then just clarify with me, and I'll get to that a little bit later. Okay, Jefferson, if using LiveLink with UE4 and using the same character in multiple scenes, do you have to rename the character in materials? No, absolutely not. You want to keep the naming of the characters consistent. You want to have them the same. If you change the names of the characters, say, for example, you have your character in Unreal using LiveLink, and you change the name, it's not going to work. Okay, the character naming has to be consistent for everything, so just be aware of that. Question from Orlando. Is it a problem to work in real time to hold props, for example, with leap motion? For example, holding a gun or a glass? That's a hard one to answer. Leap motion, holding a gun or a glass. I mean, the problem with leap motion is it's only going to sense your hands. If you have a gun or a glass in your hand, it's not going to have accurate capture. So if you intend on using props, grabbing onto props or whatever, you're not going to want to work with leap motion, just because obviously it uses the same technology as a Microsoft Kinect. So, I mean, if there's a Microsoft Kinect and you held your big bulldog, or not big bulldog, what's a big dog? Like a Great Dane, you held your big Great Dane in front of you when you're doing mocap with the Kinect, then it's going to occlude your body and your capture is going to be really bad. The same thing goes with leap motion and any props that you would hold in your hand doing that. If you wanted to capture props in your hand, you need something like Manus VR or, Perception Neuron Studio, the glove, stuff like that, to do an accurate capture with hand and prop interaction. And of course, you would need a replica prop in your virtual character's hand as well. Excuse me. Question from Armando. Will we be able to make our own motion puppet files from regular motion files? Motion puppet files from original puppet files. That's a good question. If you go to your motion puppet tool right here, I mean, you can save different body profiles. These ones, unfortunately, I don't think you can add in. Load. No. I don't think you can custom add in any like animations to use as motion puppet profiles. I haven't done it anyways. Yeah, if you the save profile here is just basically if you go into all these presets and adjust the presets and everything like that, and then you change the exaggeration. If you save that profile, then you can load it up again, and it'll appear right here. But you can't load, unfortunately, you can't load custom motions into the motion puppet tool. That'd be pretty cool though. It's actually something similar to, like very similar to that coming with the newer versions of iClone. Well, I can't really reveal too much about that yet, but yeah, but good question though. And there's something like that coming in the future for sure. Question from Andrew. I've seen some great features on Omniverse, blasted flow, realistic flames, et cetera, et cetera. On the Omniverse medieval trailer, the balls of fire are being fired across the sky. Okay, so this is more of a suggestion. Yeah, so if you guys haven't seen the Omniverse stuff yet, Character Creator 3, iClone fully support USD export. There's still some things that aren't fully compatible, but yeah, Omniverse, our Omniverse tutorials are really something to check out. So you can see the kind of the advent of our partnership with NVIDIA on Omniverse and how we're going to completely be as compatible as possible with that tool, because we really believe that that's a good area to focus on, is a collaboration with Omniverse, an excellent tool, and I'd recommend checking that out. I'm not sure where you can find it on the website. I think you just type like iClone, or no, maybe Reillusion Omniverse. Yeah, here you go. It's somewhere from the main page anyways, Reillusion, Omniverse, and Character Creator. Check out this page. A lot of really cool stuff. If you're not aware of Omniverse yet, this might be something to spend a couple of minutes browsing. Okay, question from anonymous attendee. Can you describe the workflow between iClone and Unity or Unreal? So generally what I would recommend is, I mean, I have a page that I can send you, but generally the workflow is, iClone is a really good animation tool. And what we've been focusing on with iClone for the last 5, 6, 7 years has been motion capture animation. And we support a whole variety of motion capture devices. In addition to the motion capture support, we have lots of motion tools, some of which I just showed you, that you can really quickly and easily create animations. On top of that, we have a huge library of motions that are available in our Actor Core section here. So if you go up to products and you go to Actor Core, 3D motion platform, you can, this is kind of like Mixamo used to be. You can basically just download tons and tons of motions. So you can purchase them individually. You can purchase them in bundles, and they're easy to export to any software that you're using. And you can export them into Unity and Unreal as well with your Character Creator 3 characters. If you're not familiar with Character Creator 3, definitely check it out. It's one of our biggest programs. The workflow is essentially, you animate and edit your character in iClone, and you can bring that character fully animated into Unreal Engine or Unity as well. That's not only relevant for 3D characters, we also have a 2D workflow with Cartoon Animator 4. And the cool thing about a lot of the new 2D characters is you can import 3D animations and apply them to your 2D characters, which is really cool. I'd recommend checking out our pages on that, importing 3D motions from iClone into your 2D Cartoon Animator 4 characters. Really, really cool technology that we've spent a lot of time and resources setting up. But yeah, both 2D and 3D workflow, that's essentially it. There's more detail you can go into. Like for example, iClone Live Link obviously is the big one with Unreal Engine. You can check out this website. I'll throw this in the chat window as well. Anyone who wants to browse this, where's my chat window? There we go. Lots of pages you can go through there. Okay, so the question from Jeezy, I think you clarified here. How do we use the settings found under animation menu, motion setting options to match the animation clips? Excuse me, under animation menu, motion setting options. So let me see here. Motion setting options. Okay, so these are basically just kind of settings. Let me just minimize that panel there. These are just basically settings that are on by default. Now, align to actor orientation. Again, this is the, if I didn't have this selected, then the motion I applied wouldn't align to that 45-degree angle that I set him to. So you can choose to deselect this, and it'll just go according to the default value. But what I would recommend doing with these, just to kind of see what they do, is apply various motions to your character and see what happens if these motions or if these options are selected or deselected. It's very, very important to kind of get a look at it yourself. Yeah, just deselect and reselect these motions here, or these options, and apply various root motions to your character and just see what the results are. I think it's a little bit easier just to kind of do that and take a look, because I don't really know any good solid examples that I want to show you right now. I don't want to kind of just be looking like an idiot, kind of applying various motions and not getting the results I want. But yeah, it's kind of a experimental thing, and it really depends on the motion that you use. That's kind of why I don't really have any in mind right now. But yeah, just apply different motions with these options selected or deselected, and you'll see exactly what each one of them does here. All right. Yeah, these are just kind of like settings when you're applying the motion for the first time, that what's going to happen when you apply that motion. Hopefully that's clear as mud. we might be able to have a more detailed tutorial on animation to kind of go into more details on that stuff. But yeah, for now, I'll just kind of let you experiment with it because I want to get to the end of these questions here. Question from Daniel: does digital human skin import into iClone? It doesn't look like the material as good looking. So when you're importing digital human skin into iClone, the lighting setup in iClone might be a little bit different from Character Creator 3. Generally, you're going to have the same render quality, but you just have to get the lighting correct. Lighting, like I showed you earlier, when I set up the lighting, spent like about 5 minutes setting up the lighting. Tweaking the shadows, tweaking the light colors and everything like that has a huge effect on how your character's skin appears. In Character Creator 3, that's already optimized to make your character look as good as possible. In iClone 7, the lighting isn't optimized to make your character look as good as possible because obviously your character is going to change position in the scene, and at various positions in relation to the lighting, it's going to look different. So if you want to have the same quality of appearance in iClone, you just need to adjust the lighting. It's definitely possible within like a couple of minutes. Question from Jody here. Oh, something's in the way here. Question: or animate without the weapon attached and attached to the bone in Unity? Yeah, that's what I would recommend doing if you're using a weapon, for sure. That's just the ideal workflow, because I mean, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of game mechanics too that, for example, what if your character gets hit and he loses his weapon, right? You want to be able to detach that at certain points, and you want to have game mechanics where, you know, maybe the weapon changes or something like that. So there's a lot more detail to be utilized. A lot more detailed tools to be utilized in Unreal and Unity when it comes to that stuff. Okay, so a quick question from Jeezy here again. How do we use reach effectors to make sure the character holds on to, say, a staff or a sword? So yeah, it's kind of the same process. If I wanted to have my officer character here, let's just remove his animation. Hold on to, say, I don't know, do we have anything in our, I must have a sword here somewhere. Oop. Sword. I didn't know there was a sword in this browse and builder pack. There's got to be more swords than this. Okay, let's make our own sword. I guess I'm just not into swords too much. Let's pipe. I'm gonna give him a pipe. Zoop. So quickly, I'm gonna do this with reach effectors. Pipe. Let's place it like this. Oh, stupid walls. Just think of, again, of the reach effectors as essentially dummies that drive the animation of your character's hands. So this one, oh, that's Kevin. Kevin. Where are we here? Oh, yeah, reach target. Okay. Hand. Set a reach effector on each. Move this reach effector. Do we select it? Reach dummy, right hand. Okay, I'm not going to bother, connecting the hands or the fingers. right hand, left hand. Oh, this needs to be a lot more forward. All right, we'll just work with this for now. So all you need to do is really make sure that these reach effectors are attached to whatever you want them to follow. So again, just go with the reach effector left hand attached to this pipe. Other one, pick parent, pipe. And then if we take our pipe and we move it, there you go, right? So just imagine that's like some kind of Kung Fu sword or something. Or staff, I guess. Right? And obviously his hands are not in the best position there. Okay, take that. Wow. Obviously it's gonna be different, and you can rotate and all that stuff. Okay, but that's basically the same process. Just you want to make sure those reach effectors are attached to whatever prop your character has. Okie dokes. Left and right, left and right. Okay, next question here. Okay. This is a question. I guess a lot of these questions are from earlier. Gulliver, is there a way to see the full 4K textures on a character when in iClone? When I put my skin gen settings to 4K and CC3, I can never get that fidelity back when working with the same character in iClone. So when you export from CC, character creator, there is an option for the resolution. When you export to the iAvatar, you have to set it to 4K. I don't want to load up character creator right now. It might take a while, but might as well in the background here. Yeah, like this character that I have on the screen right now. These characters are not like new characters. These are old characters. And the materials for these characters are going to be, I think, like maybe 2048 probably. Let's see. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're 2048. They're all PBR. Yeah. Or the digital human skin might be a bit higher, but I'm pretty sure they're not that large. Yeah, this even 1024. Yeah. Oh, that's his nails. Sorry. Let's move to his head. That's a good indicator. If you mouse over, you can see in the bottom left, it's 2048. So this is a 2K character. But in character creator, you definitely want to export with 4K for the best results. Again, 4K is going to take a little bit longer, a little bit more resources, but it's worth it if you want detailed animation. And once character creator loads up, I'll show you how to do that. Dale says, I have tried CS, but they sent me to the forum. CS, I'm not sure what you mean by CS there, Dale. You can clarify that. Rashad asks, how do you use super zoom with the camera on the timeline? The fastest way to do a fast zoom, you can scroll your mouse wheel like this, okay? I like to hold Alt and click both mouse buttons. That gives me a bit of a smoother zoom. If you want to do a fast zoom, hold Alt and Shift at the same time, okay? Alt and Shift, and then you can zoom out real fast like this. Alt, Shift, and click and drag both mouse buttons at the same time, and you can go in and out real fast. Okay, you can also hold Alt and Shift and scroll, and it goes in and out really fast as well. Okie dokes. William asks, I try to put a turn animation and walk away with another walk animation, but it goes the opposite direction. Again, there's a lot of complicated stuff when it comes to having the root of one motion match with the root of another motion. I think we may, I mean, if you guys want to learn more about the actual animation aspect of this stuff, where you're having a character turn around and mixing different motions together, put that in the feedback form. I'd be happy to kind of show you an example of combining various motions together with turning and different roots and everything like that. Because I know it can be a bit complex when you first start out, but yeah, because I need more detail specifically on what you're asking for. That question was from William, but yeah, I'd be happy to maybe do a tutorial or webinars on that in the future. Yeah, same question from Anthony. I think this is having a character walk forward and turn right. There's various ways you can do it. No quick ways right now that I can think of, unless you have a specific motion pack that you want to use. And there are motion packs that have that. Like if you go into the actor core that I showed you earlier, there's motions that you can kind of combine with each other really quickly. Just they rotate no problem together. Okay, quick question from Julius. If you use a line to right or left foot on the transition of a motion, would that fix the sliding issue? Yeah, in certain cases. So what I showed you earlier with the walking of the officer, this is going to be funny. He's going to be walking with this pole. What I showed you earlier, and what I think I forgot to do, is align the transition clip. Let me just go back to, I guess, Smart Gallery. Or no, I'm going to make sure he's aligned first. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so one funny thing is going to happen when he moves forward without the pull, but I'll just apply that motion anyways. All right. So the motion, the wander one, you can see his arms going behind him like that. And then if we apply the next one, was it again chat? Yeah, chat and stand or whatever. Okay, so if I press F3 and go into the timeline, whoops. Let's make sure our character is selected. We don't need Visine open. We don't need stupid camera open. Okay, so to quickly focus on the transition curve that there's one kind of cool feature that I showed, I didn't show earlier that I could have, and that is if I wanted to, basically do the same thing, create that transition area there, that transition clip. So we stands on his right foot there, and then right click in here, create transition clip. So this frame right here is where he lands on his right foot. So he lands on his right foot right there. And then this whole transition curve, you can see the right foot slide backwards, okay? So that's not what we want to happen. And if we don't want the right foot to slide backwards during this transition, then what we can do is basically at the very first frame of the transition clip, right click it and select align whole clip and align it to the right leg, okay? Like this. And then that right foot is going to stay stationary. However, the problem with this one is, okay, so you have that little kind of back and forth. And this is what I was talking about earlier. So we have this right here, this frame and this frame. And again, that can be fixed using the transform motion, the transform that I showed earlier. Whoops. So just choose a double click on this frame and then double click on this frame. And you want to basically, from here to here, you want to move your character up to that original position. Pressing the W key there. Where is he? Why is it down there? Oh, I think I selected something wrong. There we go. Okay. So move him forward to that position. And again, I'm just eyeballing it. So obviously he needs to be a little bit further forward, right there. Even further, just like that. Okay, so then we have that transition, which is fine. Okay, so now if we play back, we'll get the no foot sliding. I don't know why I added a keyframe there. Okay. All right, so I kind of fixed it. And that's the thing I forgot to do a little bit earlier is when adding that transition clip, you want to make sure that you just align to the right foot, and then you can fix it that way as well. This might actually be a little bit of a better way to do it, but then again, it all depends on you. This is kind of just another way to fix it. Question from John Reed. Are there any iClone tutorials showing how to edit meshes in iClone 7? First of all, we don't really edit the meshes in iClone 7. That's done in Character Creator 3. We do have lots of tutorials on how to edit the mesh in Character Creator 3, though. So yeah, if you want to, well, okay, so you're talking about the torqued arms on my character, Kevin character there. There's a couple things with that. First of all, I kind of use a really bad rotation method. And the second is that Kevin character is actually like an older character as well. It doesn't utilize the new CC3 base plus mesh, which is optimized especially around the shoulders. Excuse me. So yeah, there's a couple things there that may not have been ideal. Obviously, if I had more time, I certainly wouldn't have mirrored the arms to get them to rotate at the same time. I probably would have done them one by one. And again, I would have probably taken the CC3 base plus character, which is the newest CC3 characters. And there's a few things that could have been done there. But in terms of the mesh editing, it's all done in Character Creator 3. I don't know if to what extent that would have solved any sort of issue. Because a lot of that's to do with the weighting, but yeah, it should have been, or sorry, twist bones rather, but it should have been. Obviously, if I had more time, I would have done a lot of a better job there. Instead of giving him the most uncomfortable looking handcuff that's possible. William asks, what's the longest time for a scene to render? Well, that really depends, William, on your scene. It can run anywhere from like a few seconds to a few hours. And that's just kind of giving you a brief or a very a very wide estimate of how long it can take to render things. And I mean, iClone won't take a couple of hours to render something, rarely. Just because it's like a real-time engine. And real-time rendering is real-time rendering, right? So generally it should be able to render very, very fast. Question from Gigi is, notice there's some settings under animation menu, motion settings, options. Yeah, so Gigi, I think for this same thing as I mentioned before, for those motion settings under animation, I would need to look at some specific animations because I don't have any like in mind right now. There's some motions that are root motions, and there's some motions that are transform motions, and a lot of those have to deal with connecting the two. So I don't want to kind of just flounder along here, like showing you guys examples that I haven't tried and tested before kind of showing the example. So I would have to review that a little bit. So apologies for that I can't really show right now. But if you guys want to learn more about that, I can always answer it in other tutorials or webinars. Okay, a question from Rashad. I'd like to see a motion pack for walking upstairs. I do believe we have some motion packs for walking upstairs in Actor Core. You can take a look in the Actor Core and search for that. Question from Anthony. When loading characters from CC3, I get a gray blank screen. Not the screen from NVIDIA Omniverse Launcher. Maybe some sort of issue with the link between the two. That would have to be done with some troubleshooting, Anthony. Unfortunately, I can't give you any sort of specific answer on that since I haven't experienced it myself. Question from Anthony: if I buy another 390 or 3090, will I have? Then I'll have 48 gigabytes of memory. Would I need the NVIDIA link connector? Yeah, you need the link connector either way. I believe you're talking about between iClone and NVIDIA Omniverse. You need that app either way when you're using Omniverse, just to kind of get live updates. So for example, if you're using your Character Creator 3 character in Omniverse, and say, for example, you change your Character Creator 3 character's hair or even change the character itself and just keep the same name, you need that link connector to update it live, right? Otherwise, you'll have to just go through the whole process of importing the character in again. Question from Abdul Baki. Question about rendering. Abdul, you'd have to, since I haven't, I can't really see what your rendering problem is. You'd have to kind of just either email me at kai@relution.com or kind of ask the question on the forums with some accompanying images and more details, because I can't really tell exactly what your render question is there. Okay. Question from Daniel: is it possible to export looped animation from iClone? Are you planning on to implement animation layers? Yes to both of those questions. You can definitely export looped animation. It doesn't have to be like, for example, I showed you the officer cheering before. You can just export that as a looped animation if you want. Animation layers are going to be kind of implemented gradually. In terms of whether or not it's like similar to the animation layers used in other tools, that remains to be seen. I've only seen some precursors to what's going on right now, but there's some big changes in terms of animation capabilities and render capabilities coming later this year. I can't say much more for now, unfortunately. In Omniverse, there are blast and flow extensions, smoke and trails. Okay, to see a tutorial about rockets and fighter planes. Yeah, I've actually just started learning Omniverse, I think like last month myself. So I'm not super familiar with Omniverse at all. And it probably take me a bit of time to become familiar enough with it to do tutorials on it. As opposed to those kind of tutorials. I mean, I've done a couple of the tutorials already that are just simple setup and import and stuff, but that's the basic stuff, man. Okay, I think this is the same question as before. Adding a grease pencil to iClone in order to mark motion points would be helpful. Yeah, absolutely. Question from John Reed there. I think we do have a wishful feature section in our forums as well. If you go to our forums, under each product, there is a wishful features section here. So like, for example, under iClone, wishful features. Our development team browses this regularly. So if there's some sort of specific feature that you want, put it into that section of the forum. And I mean, if it gets more support, we're more than likely to include it in the next update. So that's somewhere where you really want to put your wishful features or ideas you have for future tools in iClone. Okay, a question from Anonymous. Can you layer direct puppet animation over motion capture, particularly in a character's face or torso? Yes, absolutely. You can layer anything over anything, really, in iClone. You can mask stuff. You can remove animation from stuff. Yeah, you can absolutely layer direct puppet animation over motion capture. Again, the results may vary because it is a quick and dirty tool, but yeah, just be aware of that. But there's various ways you can fix and refine it as well. Julius asks, if you're using Aculips for voice script, why would facial motion capture be necessary? Facial motion capture is obviously a very good tool. Now, the levels of detail that you can achieve with facial motion capture can vary. obviously these days it's quite excellent. If you don't have these tools, these facial motion capture tools, then you know, the Aclipse comes free with iClone. So I mean, it's a great tool for you. In terms of one way that Aclipse is better than facial motion capture for lip syncing is the tongue. So no one has yet figured out a way really accurately to I guess represent the tongue when it comes to lip syncing in motion capture anyways. So one thing that Aclipse has is it has 11 tongue sliders that allow you to put your tongue in like all sorts of various different ways. I mean, if you just talk, if you like mouth words with your mouth right now, you can notice that your tongue is moving at various ways, various points in your mouth. And to get the best accuracy, obviously you want, even though you may not be paying super close attention to it, to get the best accuracy, you do want to have an ability to adjust that tongue position. And Aclipse can do it automatically, whereas facial motion capture won't be able to do that. I did a webinar, 7.9 iClone webinar, I think it was early last month. You can check that in the webinar archive, where I do mess around with the tongue and do some tongue lip syncing and stuff. Very important to use that for the most accurate lip sync possible. And just the option that it's easier to edit as well. I mean, if you do want to edit something and modify it later on, I think it's easier to use Aclipse than it is to use any of the other tools, for example. That's just me. I'm a lazy animator, if I can even call myself that, an animator. But yeah, that's the biggest difference for me is the tongue, and obviously the tools, it makes it easier to edit. Edgar asks, can you edit skin weights around the elbows in CC? Yeah, you can edit skin weights for everything. Excuse me, in CC. I don't want to get into detail on that, but yes, you can. And we do have tutorials on that. By the way, in case you guys aren't aware, every product that we have has a learning center section. So if we go to the main page, for example, in Character Creator, if you go to the top, there's always a Learn section here. And in the Learn section, there's tutorials where you'll see the video tutorials. There's the manual. There's past webinars we've done and stuff up here as well. So tutorials, for example, will show all the tutorial videos categorized. Well, I guess these are the most popular or latest, who knows. Anyways, and these masterclass ones are really good these are done by professional artists. Really recommend checking out these. Obviously, I'm nowhere close to a professional artist, but these guys are quite exceptional in their own field. So I'd recommend checking these out. And we're always adding more of these as well. Anonymous asks, what's the point of using Omniverse? Would you give us a little bit more information? So Omniverse is kind of it uses a very a universal format called USD, as opposed to FBX and OBJ. That kind of is basically an update on those formats. It can include a lot more data. We're still in the process of utilizing the full potential of USD files when it comes to our exports from iClone and Character Creator. But it's basically going to be a new standard format with CG software and game engine software. So Omniverse is basically taken a hold of that, and they've created this environment that there's also the render quality is exceptional compared to a lot of the other CG tools. It is real time, and there's a lot of advantages. Again, like I mentioned, I've only started using it a little more than a month ago. So I'm not really the best guy to ask about the nitty gritty details and why it's better. I know for a fact that the shading is a lot better, render quality is a lot better and faster, and it is compatible and quite easy to use with a variety of different programs. Very easy pipelines that are going to be established with your favorite software. You know, whether it be Cinema 4D, Max Maya, Unreal, whatever. Very easy to go back and forth with all of your resources between those tools. It's almost going to be like a hub of CG production. Question from William: how do I stop the hands moving through the body or the clothes when the character is walking or talking animations? William, this is done through keyframe editing. So for example, with this character here, if I wanted his whole walk, for example, let's just delete that stupid poll. If I wanted his whole walk, I wanted his hand to be out his whole walk. It's basically the same concept. So instead of taking his hand out of his body, we're going to put his hand into his body, all right, just for fun. So you would just go to, where are we here? Modify, animation, edit motion layer tool. Let's take his hand, and well, let's maybe just move it over here. Maybe he has his hand in a cast or something, for example, and we would need to rotate it. Whoops. That would be a better example. So instead of just doing something weird. So say that, he injured his arm and he had to keep his hand in a cast like this, close to his body. We just go to frame 1 and do this. And then play back. So now his arm's going to be like that. And if we wanted to, avoid any sort of unnecessary rotation or movement to the left hand, we can also select that clip, right click on anywhere on that clip, and select remove motion from his left arm. Okay, and then we would need to reposition that then again. Just like this. And then what we would do is have that in that spot throughout the entire animation. So now you can see it's remaining stationary. Okay, up until that point where it switches to another clip. Okay, so that's how you would, if anything is happening where you don't want it to happen, modify it like that. Edgar asks, can you export animation with sound to Unreal? Unfortunately, no format supports the sound export. So you have to add the sounds in Unreal itself. Question from Jeezy. We're going to get through the last couple of questions here, and then we'll close it off. It's the easiest way to transfer IK for the characters to Unreal to walk on the terrain in Unreal rather than go through the terrain. Honestly, when it comes to Unreal, there's a couple of tools that are available in the Unreal Marketplace that you can use to, excuse me, that you can use to have your character walk along terrain that basically integrate foot contact and stuff like that. There's even a really cool one that was released recently. I saw that you can do that. Basically has the same thing for a quadruped character, which is a character with 4 legs. And yeah, there's people that are releasing tools all the time that you can purchase from the marketplace in Unreal that basically will solve this issue. So I would recommend checking those out. I think they can run from like 10 to 20, 30 bucks, but definitely worth your time, worth your money, I think, in the end, if you're having a lot of characters walking along uneven terrain. So converting, how do you convert animations from Actor Core to the marketplace? There's tutorials on that. If you just go into the Actor Core website, again, Actor Core, there should be a Learn section at the top for Actor Core as well. I did do a bunch of tutorials for that. Or not. Or just go to our YouTube channel and type in Actor Core. You should be able to find some tutorial videos. If you should go like Relusion Actor Core. I know I did like a bunch of tutorials on it. There you go, Shazam, getting started with Actor Core. And downloading retarding motions in Blender, so you can download them and export them to Blender. Okay, that's a popular one. Blender, man, it's becoming more and more popular these days. I never would have thunk. Okay, question from anonymous attendee. Can you splice or cut an animation or motion clips? Yeah, absolutely you can. I'm just going to answer this question and then we'll we'll end off the Q&A here because this is a good question. To splice or cut animation or iMotion clips. So again, the motion that I had there in iClone, I can separate this into two motions really easily. All you have to do is just right-click at any point on the clip and select break. Okay, and then it breaks into two clips, and you can move them apart. You can modify them, and you can select these two clips here as well. Right-click and select merge clips, and it'll merge them into one. Okay, so you can break and merge clips as much as you want. You can throw stuff in the middle of them. There's all sorts of funky stuff you can do with clips. But yeah, we're kind of just don't have really too much time to experiment with stuff right now, since we've gone at about almost a couple hours now, or a little more than a couple hours. So I'm going to end off the Q&A here now, guys. I just want to thank everyone sincerely here for attending, and sorry if we didn't get to any sort of specific questions or specific workflows that you wanted to take a look at, but there's always the forums, forum.reallusion.com. I'm also available at kai@reallusion.com as well. But yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone so much for attending today. Make sure you fill out that survey and send it off to us for the 10% discount on the content store. And make sure you check out the weekly specials along with that as well. Okay, I think we're just going to go and say adios, amigos. Ciao to everyone over there in Europe who's, if you're still awake, you're a crazy person. Yeah, thanks everyone for attending, and I hope to see you guys in the next webinar.